This is Use the Types, episode number 7, configuring the web server port. We're gradually building up our app so that we can deploy it to a hosting provider such as Heroku. Providers like Heroku do not guarantee that the app will always be able to listen on the same port. So in this short video, we'll modify our web app so that the web server port can be configured via an environment variable. So first of all, let's open up a terminal as we always do. Go into our source directory and we'll create a directory for our app. We're going to pull the source code from GitHub using our wget command line. We're going to take it from the previous video's repo, which was when we talked about serving static assets. There we go. We should have our app there. We'll initialize the Git repo. We'll add files into it. Look at that. And we're going to check the current behavior of the app. So we're going to run it. We've been running this inside ghcid and things like that. We can also just run it using the stat command. We can build it and then tell it to execute snap-hello-world. There we go. We can see it's listening on port 8000. Let's open up a browser and just check that. There we go. Current time. It's ticking every second. Great. Now we're going to make the port configurable and we're going to read it from the port environment variable. That's port all caps. To do this, we can use the lookupm function. Let's kill that. And we can look at some type signatures. We can start up ghci like we've done before. And we can look at the type of lookupm. It's not in scope. That's because we need to qualify its type. It's in the system.environment module. We can see it has the type string to IO of maybe string. So it evaluates to an IO action that will return nothing if the environment variable is not defined, and just the string if it is defined. I'll show you a little trick here. We should be able to use stack ghci and this insert operator to read from standard in to run the command without having to run ghci interactively. So we should be able to do this. So you see there, it shows us the type signature. So you could write a little shell script to wrap this. We may look at different approaches to getting type information later on, using search engines and things like that. So with the output from lookupm, we can use the maybe function, and we're going to look at its type signature right now, which has the following signature. It takes a b, which is the default value, and a function from a to b, and a maybe a. And if the maybe a is nothing, it will return the default b. Otherwise, it will apply the function. Let's just quickly demonstrate that. So let s equals just hello. And we can say maybe a default value, a function to apply to it. So let's say ++ world and s, hello world. And if s were nothing, it would return the default value. So let's open up our project in VS Code. This is probably going to trigger a VS Code update, which I will ignore. Okay, maybe it didn't. I haven't run this in a while. Okay, let's look at our program. This is our web server. Now, quick HTTP serve is a function which has default, I'm going to open up the terminal, runs the server on the default port. So we're going to use lookup env and maybe to read it from an environment variable. So we'll put a do block in here. We'll say maybe port, MB port, from lookup env port, which is the name of the environment variable. And we'll need to import lookup env. Before we go any further, let's just start GHCID so we can get some type checking. So I did stack exec GHCID. I'll show you again. That was a little bit quick, wasn't it? Stack exec GHCID. So we've got an indentation problem. That is because I've added this line here, and this needs to be indented. So it's now type checking again, and it's successfully getting m from lookup m from system.environment. I'm going to hide the stuff down there, make this window a little bit smaller. Okay. So what are we going to do? We have a maybe port. This might be just a string, the value of port, or it might be nothing. So we are going to apply the maybe function to it. So we say let port equals maybe 8000, which is our default value. And we're going to apply the function read to the string if it's defined, which will convert it to an int, maybe port. There we go. That type checks. Now, instead of quick HTTP serve, we are going to use the HTTP serve function, which takes a configure object, and we're going to use set port to create the config object. So we'll say config equals set port, and the config object is a monoid, so we provide mempty, which is the default configuration, and then we're going to pass that config object HTTP serve. Save it. Does that type check? Look at that. Let's review what we just did. We changed the imports to import HTTP serve and set port instead of quick HTTP serve, and we imported lookup env. So lookup env attempts to read the port environment variable, or rather it yields an action that does that and gives us a maybe string, and we apply read to the string if it's not nothing. Otherwise we evaluate it, well, give it the value 8000, so we get the port, which will be 8000 by default, or the environment variable port converted to an integer. And then we'll create a config object by setting the port on an empty configuration, and then we pass that to HTTP serve. So let's go to our window down here, kill GHCID, and run our program. Compiles, and look at that, it's listening on port 8000. Let's kill that, and we will set the port environment variable to override that. So let's go to the beginning of our command line. We'll say port, all caps, equals 8888, for example. Stack build -- exec snap -hello -world. Run it, and now look at that, it's listening on port 8888. Let's go to our browser. We refresh with F5. Site can't be reached. Fix the port to 8888. Enter. There's our site. So we're now able to configure the port that our web server runs on. The end.